Today I'm going to be doing a pretty interesting segment, sort of a catharsis segment in a way, because I have for a while now, mostly due to the fact that Mr. Beast, or I should say Ava Tyson, Mr. Beast's friend, has gotten this very heavily into people's attention. I've been talking a lot lately about how back during the edgelord era of YouTube, 2016 to 2019, 2017, that era, people like Shadman, who you may know as like synonymous with weirdos on the internet who draw pedophilia art, were extremely popular and broadly accepted and defended by large, big content creators, all on the premise of that all-encompassing free speech absolutism, edgelord culture that the internet really promoted back then. Many of you guys don't even remember, but the most popular catchphrase on YouTube during 2016 was iDubbbz's catchphrase. Who here knows what iDubbbz's catchphrase is? Does anyone here meet the proper demographic requirements to say that catchphrase? All I'm going to say is you have to be LGBT and black to be able to say his catchphrase. It's two slurs mashed together into one. Here's a hint. I super double can't say it. Because I am white and straight. I cannot say it. That should give you enough of an idea of what this very popular, very commonly repeated and defended talking point was back then. I really need to emphasize the edginess included even Shadman, who was a known lolicon artist at the time. And I brought this up a lot, not as a defense of Ava Tyson, like, oh, well, everyone was doing it back then, so there's nothing wrong with it. No. There's not a single ounce of defense of this here, but as a, where the fuck was this energy then? Why the fuck could we not agree this was wrong back then? Why has this been publicly available knowledge that Ava Tyson had bought art from a lolicon artist for years and years and years and years, and no one gave a shit until Ava came out as trans, until there was like a political downfall to be had? Why is that when everybody decided to care? And why is it that the energy is being almost exclusively dished out to Ava Tyson when, and I am not trying to take away criticism from Ava Tyson here, she deserves it for this, but why is equal criticism not being leveraged out to content creators that not only financially supported, big content creators to this day, that not only financially supported Shadman, but defended what he did? And I mean big creators. One example off the top of my head is Psychic Pebbles, the creator of Smiling Friends, who is both a roommate of, lived with Shadman, and did a podcast with and defended Shadman. PewDiePie has also in the past supported Shadman, I believe. Yeah, like retweeting and commenting on his posts. Because you have to remember, Shadman's art was so memed, everyone would recognize it. It was universally recognizable back then, used in big YouTubers' thumbnails. Like Elvis the Alien would use Shadman's art in thumbnails. Yeah, Psychic Pebbles and Shadman were roommates, and they did a podcast together. The idea was that he was just a super edgelord, and that was what the culture of the internet was all about back then. Nobody, besides Keemstar, Destiny, and a small handful of other content creators, went after Shadman. And it just so happened the content creators that did go after Shadman were hated for all their own reasons, and so people were just inclined to defend Shad. In the case of Destiny, Destiny had a long history of claiming that animation YouTubers were lazy and greedy because they complained about not making enough money off of YouTube despite getting millions of views. When he was pretty off the mark, Destiny was wrong there because, as we know, animation YouTubers get paid ridiculously low for their work because they can't upload as often. YouTube rewards you for high upload volume, not high upload quality. They punish you for high upload quality. In fact, you cannot exist on YouTube without uploading enough for their appeasement. They will kill your channel. And so Destiny, not recognizing this, called animation YouTubers lazy, and then when he criticized Shadman for being an evident pedophile, the entirety of animation YouTube jumped to Shadman's defense. including Psychic Pebbles, of course, or Zach. Now, he is not the only one, and there are countless more people on the list. Big YouTubers to this day. Oh, someone just copy-pasted a list. Dolan Dark, Sky Williams, Sieve, Oni NG, Nuxtaku, Psychic Pebbles, co-creator of Smiling Friends, Elvis the Alien, Ricky Berwick, Crisp Rat, Thaf9, Sir Pello, Chris Raygun, Anissa Joma, all these big YouTubers, Aki Dearest, Joby the Hong, Paperbat VG / Dion, Rusty Cage, Prince Vegeta, Shuonhead, Who's Chaos, Nick Cash, The Amazing Atheist, Gale, Susu, have all interacted and supported or engaged positively with Shadman. You'll notice, by the way, there's a surprising amount of women content creators in the list of supporters of Shadman. There's been a long-running trend of female content creators online boosting or posting or encouraging or defending lolicon because women generally get away with that, like with being like people laugh it off as a joke or assume like it must be a joke because women don't tend to be weirdo gooner creeps, and so that's why you get like women like oh, here's another who I was literally going to list, who is actually an example on the list. Belle Delphine is a backer of Shadman. There's a weird, like, subsect of female content creators online that, like, pander to creeps. It's interesting. Basically, there is a literally laundry list, and that is not the end of the list. There's more, like, Redo is posting the list in chat, and it goes on. There's multiple messages worth of more content creators. I just don't feel like reading the rest. But this video was brought to my attention. It's only a day old, too. And it's from a much smaller content creator, which means you guys need to go subscribe. His name is Advil. I watched a little bit of the video, and I liked what I saw, and I decided I really wanted to watch it on stream. Now, since the debate starts very soon, we need to start this video up and watch as much of it as we can. But I'm speeding it up to 1.3 times speed. I'm going to try not to pause it too often or for too long when I do, so that we don't get we don't get caught up for too long before the debate. Hey, Evergriddle, good to see you. Anyway, here's the video. It's by Advil, and it's called How Shadman Corrupted the Entire YouTube Community. I really love the thumbnail and title of this video, by the way. I hope this video goes insanely fucking viral, and I hope I help to make it do so. Here are links in chat to the original video, everyone. And, here, can I get, like, a picture of the thumbnail of this video? It's really good. If I bring up his channel, I assume I can... Oh, shit. Okay. He's made multiple videos calling out supposed troll lolicons online. That's actually based. This is the video. How Shadman corrupted the entire YouTube community. I've seen about half of it. Haven't seen the end half. I really liked what I saw, though, and I figured, you know what? We should watch this. We should really watch this on stream. It is a lot. It really does, like, hammer home my point of how bad the edgelord mentality of 2016, how good it was, I should say, at enabling a known pedophile to exist online, and how big creators defended that behavior, and how a lot of this has been buried. Like, I need you guys to know a lot of this has been very heavily buried, and, you're going to see clips here that a lot of you didn't know existed. I didn't know some of these clips existed, and I thought I was, like, uniquely tapped in, having been around back then. I was, like, 16 at the time when Shadman was really big online, and so I was a minor, so I recognized, obviously, like, you know, I don't want to see pedophilia encouraged online, you know, being someone who is underage, but also I was old enough to recognize what it was and how... you know, these adult content creators should know better. And I remember being bothered by it even then. And now I feel so, like, vindicated. Like, my 16-year-old self back then being annoyed by this shit feels vindicated, seeing that, like, culture has finally caught up and realized this shit is unacceptable. And now we're seeing as, like, the current internet landscape realizes the kind of shady past that a lot of these big YouTubers had back during 2016, during Gamergate. Like, you got to understand, Gamergate wasn't just a sort of contained movement. Gamergate was so toxic and it had such a cultural impact, it transformed the entirety of YouTube culture to the point where, as you're about to see, Shadman was played off as a joke, just an edgy meme guy, by the entirety of the big YouTube landscape back then. So let's watch.
Have you guys seen Twitter recently? If you haven't, I wouldn't suggest it. If you're unaware, pretty much any creator that you like or could ever like has been canceled. Except for your boy over here. Just no Advil fans? You're safe. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain. There's a long list of YouTubers who have been mass canceled. Mr. Beast, Ava Chris Tyson, Quackity, anyone who's around past 2013, before 2020 is in the crossfire. And why is that? Well, there's some allegations against Ava Chris Tyson, a former Mr. Beast employee, but that's not what we're talking about. Instead, we're talking about the nuclear apocalypse that is Shadman. Now, if you don't know who Shadman is, I'm so jealous. Shadman is a viral Twitter artist that was around during the Newgrounds age, and from around 2016 to 2019, that's pretty much the only time you'll see anyone talk to him or even interact with him. He is extremely controversial. And if you aren't aware and you're asking, Advil, why is he so controversial? Shadman is someone who is known for drawing very explicit images of specific people. Those involving Daphne Keene while she was filming Logan, Keemstar's 8-year-old daughter, and Lieutenant Corbis while she was still a minor. So, makes sense why a lot of people don't like him.
Now, to be very clear, these were the events that got Shadman into deep shit because of the amount of, like... I think for a lot of people, even those that were able to look past the sussiness of Shadman before, the drawing of, like, known real children as like a step up in his gimmick to like escalate things was just too far. That was truly what destroyed him back then. That destroyed him. The Logan thing, the Keem's daughter thing, and the Lieutenant Corbis thing. These three things just cemented that he was done. Nobody was supporting him after this. But you need to understand that was the end of people supporting him. Before that, he was drawing shit so bad that, as we'll find out later in this video, he was banned from his country because he was uploading things on his his website was banned in his country because he was uploading there. The art he was uploading was illegal. So, even before all that, which made everyone drop him, he was already posting awful shit, known for posting awful shit, lolly shit, and he was friends with all these YouTubers during all that time. He didn't get dropped until he nuked himself by uploading those examples that he just talked about there. That was how Shadman lost his credibility and friendships with people, and everyone tried to bury their association.
But around this time, he was massive in the YouTube community. Pretty much anyone who was somewhat relevant around that time had interacted with him or was actively friends with him. There's a full Twitlonger and master list or Reddit of people who even followed him or replied to one of his tweets, and it is insane.
And mind you, none of this would be a big deal if it wasn't already obvious that Shadman was a massive creep, and if it wasn't so obvious that when people called it out, the people he was friends with would defend it. That is how big of an issue it was, even before those three drawings that ended him. So that was, like, we're not talking about how people are supposedly, like, retroactively guilty for not knowing someone was, like, a weirdo, right? That's not what the criticism is here. I want to be very clear. The criticism is that they knew, and they looked the other way. And history is repeating itself now with big YouTubers buddying up with Nuxtaku, a friend of Shadman's, mind you, and a weirdo gooner that regularly posts porn content to a child audience, that he clickbaits, like, horny shit, like, for kids to... It's like cartoon horny post thumbnails to clickbait kids. It's really degenerate. Like, the comments on the videos make it clear that kids are watching. And Nuxtaku is just Shadman of 2024. I guarantee you in a few years, people are going to be doing deep dives on what YouTubers associated with and defended Nuxtaku in the same way that we're looking at this Shadman thing now. Where it's not a matter of if it is bad to have associated with him, it's a matter of did they associate with him? It's already a given that it was bad to have associated with him. It's a matter of if they did, not if it would be bad if they did.
insane. So names like Sive, Elvis the Alien, Senor Pello, massive creators that you wouldn't expect. But from these giant lists of YouTubers I've found, there's been one issue. And I promise you, I don't mean this to defend Shadman, but there's some people who didn't really do shit. So in this video, I'm going to explain who Shadman is, what he did, and how connected he truly was to the YouTube community. Because there's a lot of context that is currently missing that is needed. So let's start with...
I love the dream photo on the wall.
Who is Shadman? Now, if you're unaware or you just weren't paying attention to the intro, then fuck you. But for the full story, Shadman is a Newgrounds artist who gained a lot of popularity during the late 2010s, especially in a YouTube crowd. Around this time on YouTube, edginess was king. If you wanted any type of popularity, you had to be edgy. I mean, like iDubbbz, Filthy Frank, Max Mofo were at their pinnacle at this time. Commentary was also at a peak. Drama Alert was massive. People would watch Drama Alert every day. And one of the worst things to come out of this era was Shadman. He's someone that made objectively terrible,
I need you to understand, Drama Alert at the time occupied the exact same place on YouTube that Philip DeFranco does now. I know not everybody here watches Philip DeFranco, but you have to be at least somewhat like knowledgeable of how much the fact that Philip DeFranco is considered the YouTube news guy. Like, he is the guy you get your news from if you like watch YouTube as your form of entertainment, right? Not me, but like a lot of people do. And he's known for that. Back then, it was Keemstar running Drama Alert. I need you guys to understand, millions of people every day tuned into the daily episodes of Drama Alert where Keemstar would sit there eating popcorn and peddling rumors about the new handful of YouTubers that he would accuse of being a pedophile. That was literally, meanwhile, like that was the state of YouTube back then. Nothing about it was good. I'm so glad that I was like a shithead teenager back then so I could enjoy it, because if I was an adult then, I would have just absolutely hated the culture of the internet back then. Like, I would not have been able to stand it back then if I wasn't like such a shithead teenager. It was so bad. I didn't like it all that much back then. But even then I look back and I'm like, fuck. If I was an adult back then, I don't know if I would have been on YouTube at all. I don't know if I would have watched YouTube anymore because all the biggest content creators were dipping into this shit. It was so unavoidable.
Disgusting drawings. Even beyond drawing real-life children, he would draw a lot of fictional characters interacting with some weird fetishes, incest, diaper play, weird freak stuff. And a lot of his art was used for content, typically to be made fun of, but still used. At a certain point, he became a meme. His artist character represented what was prominent at the time. His character was a Nazi who drew...
You know what a really good comparison is? Shadman is a lot like Stone Toss. This image is drawn by Shadman, by the way. This famous image of Pickle Rick and Bob the Cucumber making out that you've probably seen posted meme. Maybe you even posted it because you thought it was funny. That's drawn by Shadman, apparently. Shadman is a lot like the Stone Toss of lolicon comic creators, where he made a lot of art that was like cut, like, you know, that like trend, maybe it's not as much of a thing anymore, but it was definitely a trend back then. People would, as a joke, take a really zoomed in shot from hentai or from something that's pornographic and make it their profile picture. It's still kind of a thing today, but that was like the thing in 2016. If you had a Discord account in 2016, chances are, not me, but chances are, if you were like an edgy memer, you had like some anime girl doing the ahegao, I think it's pronounced, the agehao face, where it's like the tongue hanging out and like it's like really, really over the top, like, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That shit was the humor of 2016 on top of like saying the N-word and joking about the Holocaust. So there's a lot. There's a lot. Bob the Cucumber. Oh, it's Bob the Tomato or Larry the Tomato. Larry the Cucumber, Bob the Tomato. My bad. I was a femboy Nazi and had a gayhow anime PFP. Yeah, there were people in chat back then who were chuddy back in the 2016 era, and they fall into this example. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But what I mean by the whole Stone Toss comparison is that, like, images from Shadman's art were so prevalently memed, used in thumbnails, turned into, like, profile pictures and reposted as, like references on Twitter and stuff, that it's like Stone Toss comics, where everyone recognizes Stone Toss's art style. Back then, everyone recognized Shadman's art style because it was reposted everywhere as a joke.
be made fun of, but still used. At a certain point, he became a meme. His artist character represented what was prominent at the time. His character was a Nazi who drew children in a sexual manner. Nothing is more vile and edgy and disgusting than that.
That's really the best way. I've never heard it put better. The culture of YouTube was so edgelord focused back then that they championed a guy whose profile picture was a Nazi, like a Nazi officer, Nazi uniform, with like the Iron Cross on it and everything, who draws CP, because the perception was he's just that edgy. He's a Nazi, or pretends to be a Nazi. Would be, because it's a bit, guys. It's a bit. He's totally doing a bit, guys. Trust. And part of the bit was also drawing child porn. That was the logic people operated on in mass back then. I am not defending anything here, once again, because I had people in the comments when I brought this up the first time saying, oh, so you think what Ava Tyson did is okay because everyone was backing Shadman back then? It's like, no, I need you guys to understand how bad it was back then. I'm not defending anyone here. I am emphasizing to you that if you weren't around for it, you cannot imagine how bad it was. It was nothing like today where, well, I guess, there is Dr. Disrespect, but like, it was so much worse than today. It was so much worse than today. That's really all I can say.
But that was the norm back in the day. So around this time, you would see people like Elvis the Alien use his name or his content for clout. Interacting with him at conventions. Belle Delphine did a whole photo shoot, same with Susu. There's people who bought his art and hung it up on their walls because it was funny. It was...
Yeah, you'll find that a lot of e-girls and OnlyFans girls have been big backers of Shadman, or I guess like now they're known as OnlyFans girls. Back then OnlyFans didn't exist. This is pre-OnlyFans, but like before that, when they were just like e-girls, like a lot of Shadman's biggest supporters are e-girls and OnlyFans girls. I don't know why, but I think it probably has to do with the fact that, like, let's be real. And I listen, I've spoken to plenty of OnlyFans girls that I'm friends with, and they all know that a lot of the guys that are subbing to their OnlyFans are some fucking weirdos, and they are happy to farm the money off of those weirdos if they're willing to pay for it. And so, to a degree, I wouldn't be surprised if some shameless, morally bankrupt OnlyFans girls out there are absolutely willing to knowledgeably shill and pander to the biggest weirdos on the internet for money. A good example of this is, as I brought up many times in the past, and I've never liked her, Belle Delphine, who recently, I believe, got fully caught using a de-aging filter that's meant to make her look like underage. Like, it's a filter that's meant to give you, like, more of, like, a rounded, like, baby face. And, like, Belle Delphine's an adult, and I know there's, like, what do you mean? Like, you can't say she looks underage, but she definitely styles herself to look as young as possible. And adding a filter to make herself look even younger on that, it's just like, yeah, pedo bait shit. And then on top of that, wasn't she just, like, sexualizing herself when she was a minor as well? Like, this has been... I told you, Redo, I knew. I told you I knew, Redo, and not to blow up chat about it. I told you all that I knew. Yeah, Finster collab with her. That's the thing, guys. Like, every big clouded up YouTuber has probably at some point knowingly collabed with someone like this and not given a fuck. Finster included. Like, if you want to be successful on YouTube, you have to be willing to, like, engage in networking. And for a while now, the state of YouTube networking has been such that if you call stuff like this out, you're not going to be invited to anything. You're not going to be invited to any parties. I've never been invited to any parties or anything at VidCon or TwitchCon, but you definitely won't if you call this stuff out. And your channel will suffer for it. Your income, your career, your livelihood will suffer for it. So to an extent, I don't think that every YouTuber who refused to call this out was a bad person. I just think that YouTube has its own... YouTube is in need of its own Me Too. Because this is its own version of sexual impropriety being covered up by powerful people to keep things... keep the boat from being rocked. So this is Aki Dearest saying, Ordered my prints from Shadman. My instrument is now protected. Also, I've been using at overt tone color to do quick recolors in my hair, and it's been doing wonders. It takes a couple times to get it through, but I'm getting the hang of it.
Incredibly disgusting and different time. I feel like I have to like over-explain how gross all this is. Jesus. And then after those wrongs became public,
isn't she a normie anime YouTuber? If you know of a YouTuber who you think of as normie that was around back then, go look at their video uploads from 2016. They might have been doing some very different stuff back then. In the case of that girl, yeah, she's doing normie anime reviews now and is probably buried any association with Shadman, as a lot of these creators have. But back then, they thought Shadman was the funny, edgy guy who has a Nazi... Mind you, publicly had a Nazi profile picture. It's a skull man in a Nazi uniform and drew lolicon. Everyone knew this, especially the Nazi aspect, and associated with him because it was part of this like edgelord culture back then.
Lawyers actually sent him a cease and desist, and it basically forced him to cease operations on his website where he was posting a lot of this art. And from that, there were two sides of the YouTube community. Now, a lot of people actually found issue with these drawings, especially after him getting sued. But there was a mass amount of YouTubers, successful and popular YouTubers, who defended his art, saying it was a free speech violation for him to be censored, which...
Yep. Yeah. Weird art, very weird, but I'm in full support of your website staying up. It's the people that demand this art that I'm personally critical of. Yeah, this was in response to Shadbase's site getting shut down for posting child porn. This happened before the whole, big cancellation of Shadman, back when he was still, popular and supported. And this was, all of YouTube coming out to support him on Twitter by saying, oh, it's bullshit that your child porn site got taken down because it's illegal in your country to upload drawings of children in sexual situations.
Defended his art, saying it was a
free speech violation? Bro drew CP, though. Guys... The right is bad today. Culture, the whole, cancel culture, anti-free speech, the free speech absolutist stuff is cringe and bad today, don't get me wrong, but back then, it was this bad. This is the culture Gamergate created. This is why we don't just let Gamergate go, despite it having been, 10 years or whatever, or 8 years or whatever, because 4 years of political, cultural... status online for Gamergate created this landscape. Glad Bionic Pig TV defended Shadbase in his new video, #relatable. Yo, bitch, this thick-ass thought he belongs to my man Shadbase. Give credit where credit id due. You ain't got no sauce. You aren't even juice. Step to me on my turf and my dog's got me on back, ya feel. Haha, it's so edgy and funny. You know, because they said thick with 2 C's and thought in the same sentence, you know this was a 2016. You know this is a screenshot from 2016 with thought and thick with 2 C's in the same sentence. That's the most 2016-ass screenshot I've ever seen. Maybe 2017. Maybe.
Speech violation for him to be censored, which we'll talk about later. And then later on, Shadman got arrested for assault charges in 2021, and since then he's been pretty quiet. And most people
that was well after Shadman got giga nuked off the internet for the Keemstar's daughter stuff, though, and the other stuff too. That whole thing was more of a haha, let's laugh at the guy who's already reputationally fucked. The really concerning stuff is what happened before the point where no one could deny how awful he was. Where we're no one could deny it before, but when it got to the point where people stopped kidding themselves, but they should have stopped kidding themselves way sooner.
People forgot about him or didn't even know about him. He sort of faded into irrelevancy until recently, where because of this Ava Chris Tyson situation, have brought him back up, and he's kind of the nuclear apocalypse for most YouTubers now. He's probably the most well-connected, fucked up person in the YouTube community, and you'd be surprised how many people have connection to him in some form or another. It's so shocking, really, that I guarantee that if I put 3 people in a room and quiz them in some sort of show, maybe like a game show, that they wouldn't really be able to tell who was connected to him or who wasn't. This is a transition, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. All right, welcome to the Advil super awesome, amazing game show.
This bit is so good.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a series of questions about who was associated with our good friend, especially yours,
Farglehorn. We're going to be switching to the debate in a moment.
Advil. All right, first question. All you got to do is just answer who you think fit the bill. You ready? Who was not actively following Shadman on Twitter?
Who's not actively following Twitter?
Yeah, I'll give you guys 10 seconds to think. And when you get an answer, just raise your hand. Okay. Call boss.
It's Thomas?
Is that your final answer?
Can I phone a friend?
No. You think it's Mr. Thomas?
Sure.
Do you guys agree with him?
No.
Who do you think it is? I'll let everyone get a good answer.
This bit is really funny, but I want to leave. It's funnier if you just watch it as a whole thing, and because the debate is happening, we're going to have to wrap up soon, so I'm just going to show you the questions and tell you the answers, okay? Because it's a really good bit to kind of emphasize how things are. I don't know if this is Turkey Tom. It kind of looks like him. Is it? I don't know. But Thomas Fitz, big meme YouTuber from back in the day. He was like one of the meme YouTubers. And I mean, when I say meme YouTuber, that was the name of like a community of YouTubers back then. Like they called it meme YouTube. Like commentary YouTube was like referred to that. Like commentary community got its name a little later, like 2017, 2018. Before that, they called it the meme community, which is of course in hindsight super cringe. But it's time accurate lingo. And then of course Amaranth. These are people who actively still follow Shadman because I guess they forgot to unfollow him after everything went down. Notice, by the way, Amaranth follows Shadman. You will be surprised at how many prominent female sex workers also support Shadman. This is not purely a edgelord commentary dude thing. This is also everything from like edgy pick-me anime avatar girls on YouTube to sex worker women who have also have a history of backing Shadman. And even today, wildly enough, some of the largest and most prominent lolicon defenders on YouTube today are women. Pipka Pipkin, for example, is a woman, pretty massive from what I remember at least, and is an ardent defender of lolicon. That's how I discovered her. Was covering her video defending lolicon in regards to cyberpunk edge runners, saying, yes, Rebecca is a lolly, and lolly is good, was the claim. And it is good that they kept the quote-unquote lolly, as they claim. They also like to call adult women lollies as well to try and make it seem less pedophilic because they don't want to own that they're pedos. It's a massive rabbit hole. If you want, you can go watch the video. Basically, pedos trying to normalize lolicon. I called it out. They got really mad at me. It was really fun. To this day, lolicon YouTube fucking hates me, which is why I enjoy covering this stuff so much and calling this stuff out.
I don't know why, but I feel like...
So yeah, Thomas here is the only one who is not actively following Shadman on Twitter. And the next question is, who has not replied to more than 3 Shadman tweets? Quackity, meme YouTuber, the band Smash Mouth, although I believe this is actually a different YouTuber who used the Smash Mouth logo as their profile picture because 2016, or this Martin guy. The answer is Martin. This guy, it could literally be Smash Mouth and Quackity. Both have replied to more than 3 Shadman tweets.
Shadman.
Let's see. What's the next one? Oh, here we go. Who has bought Shadman art? Sketch has not, and Sneaker has not, aka Sneeko, has not, but Jimmy Beef, aka Jimmy Beast, holding his little beast, as they say in the video. I love this image, by the way. I don't know where they found this photo of Mr. Beast just fucking, just holding his little beast. But here it is. Mr. Beast apparently has bought Shadman art himself as well.
What do you think?
Dude, I think it's Sneeko.
It has to be Sneeko because he likes minors. He's a lot like Connor.
Kobe Bryant himself?
I think it's Sneeko.
Well, I got good news. You guys were wrong. It's Jimmy Beef.
For what?
Huh?
Really?
But he's a hustle.
But he's holding his little beast.
Yeah, look at his little piece. Was it Ava?
Was it Jim?
I love that line. But he's holding his little beast.
Really not just
The lore is they bought it together while they were roommates. And they hung it up on their wall in their living room.
Surprised that Sneeko.
Oh, Mr. Beast and Ava bought the Shadman art and hung it up on their wall in their apartment where they were roommates together. Damn. That's not. That's different than the narrative I heard, because everyone just wanted to pin blame on Ava because that's all anyone really like. People wanted to take down Mr. Beast as like a side product, but really like it was about going after Ava because she's trans. That's been like the very evident. Like that was the reason this all started, was because Ava came out as trans, and you don't get criticized for this stuff until you are the right target. And Mr. Beast wasn't the right target to be gone after for this stuff that's been public and known for years until he came out as pro-trans. Then it was time for a dedicated group of people to seek this stuff out, post it as much as possible, and try to bring him down, which is fine. He should have to answer for this stuff, as every other YouTuber who defended and supported Shadman and his art should. But once again, this energy that is given to Ava Tyson is not ever going to be met, even in worse situations. Like, granted, Ava bought Shadman art. That's pretty bad. Some of these YouTubers defended Shadman's CP website when it got banned, and no one is giving them shit about it. It's because they're not the right targets. They're not trans. They're not minorities. They have audiences that can defend them online. They ideally want to target someone who doesn't have the means to protect themselves because they don't have a large enough audience to defend them in response to like the wave of hate they're going to get. And they go after people who are part of minority groups, whether it be a valid thing to go after them for or not. But what the bad side of this means is that tons of people who are supposedly not perfect targets get away with this shit, like Shadman did for years.
Any Shadman art.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
me too.
I definitely feel
Being a
like we're biased
pedophile
to
is like
point.
Sneako's #1 like trait.
Next question. Who has not lived with Shadman? Is it Psychic Pebbles, Mick Lauer, or Daniel Keem?
The answer is Keemstar. Keemstar is the only one there who has not lived with Shadman. Because, yes, Psychic Pebbles not only was buddies with and defended Shadman, but lived with Shadman as a roommate. That history with Shadman has been pretty buried. And mind you, I've got, like, personal friends who I'll bring up, like, man, I found out that, like, Psychic Pebbles is, like, buddies, was, like, big buddies with Shadman. Like, they even lived together. And they're like, oh, yeah, but they don't like, they didn't know about that stuff. And they just made fun of Shadman for a while. And they just laughed at him. Like, I've got personal friends who like some of these figures so much, they aren't willing to, like, give criticism to the YouTubers because... for something that they absolutely should, because, like, these are beloved figures. Like, Psychic Pebbles and Smiling Friends are so beloved that I know people who aren't willing to, like, carry the same energy over because of bias, you know? Hell, we had a person in stream earlier today who was like, man, it sucks that people in your chat hate Vosh, and it's like, I mean, a lot of them hate Vosh because they saw the porn on his computer. Do you know about that? And they were like, yeah... I was like, okay, so you knew about that, and you were complaining about people here not liking him? It's like, you knew about the lolly porn and the horse shit, and you were upset that people here don't... It's like, people's personal biases make them willing to look past a lot of stuff. No one's immune from this. Literally no one. Not me, not you, no one. But you gotta be willing to accept that and try to keep your principles straight, you know? Like, this kind of stuff should not be acceptable. If someone like this is doing this kind of stuff, then there should be public pressure as a basic societal, like, standard that people should be afraid to associate with types like Shadman.
With Shadman. Is it Psychic Pebbles, Mick Lauer, or Daniel Keem?
I would love to say that that Keem has lived with Shadman, but I don't think he has.
Yeah? Do you guys agree?
I think they're feuding too much, right?
Yeah,
because
because chronically online enough for this.
Oh my
You guys got it right.
Jimmy's bean.
Who is friends with
Dude, I
Shadman?
think I know the answer.
First, Psychic Pebbles.
Yeah, you know.
Next,
I
Brofist.
forgot.
No,
Wait,
no,
I
no.
forgot.
Third, Advil. Do not...
I know.
Yeah. Okay, who do you think?
Okay, okay, so after analyzing it for a while, you know, all very great picks. I'm gonna have to say, it's gotta be Advil. Who is Advil? Is my final answer.
Right. Anyone else have like a...
Advil,
better-
do not
like,
pick.
obviously right.
No, I
What's your
think we're
answer?
unison.
You're ginger.
Okay, so
Oh,
So
that's not
therefore-
fair. Yeah, but like he's like...
You're like we're up.
I like this little bit. But I really want to get to the next bit of the video because it's where the spicy parts are. I highly recommend you watch this video on its own because it's so good, and you should sub to this YouTuber. He's got like 3K subs. That is like obscenely low. for a channel that's doing content this good. So go sub, go send support, go like. Do the things. You know what to do.
So now that you know about the insane amount of creators who are associated with Shadman, let's play judge and say whether or not they're guilty or innocent. I'm just playing. You really can't have such a complex issue like Shadman and have it just be a black or white issue. So instead of that, let's talk about the people who actively knew what Shadman was doing and chose to either ignore it or defend him, and how some of those people who defended him back in the day or currently have responded to the new criticisms due to the Ava Chris Tyson situation. So let's start off with talking about people who I really don't think deserve the criticism. This will serve as a good baseline for why I personally deem someone worthy of criticism or not. This is kind of the guidelines for the Pillman seal of approval. Now, to give some examples of people who I don't really believe did shit were Quackity, Thaf9, and Chris Raygun. The first two, because while they were replying to them, were underage themselves, and Thaf wasn't even a YouTuber by then. He's just kind of like a little shitter in the community.
I cannot believe I even have to make this video, so I'll keep it very brief. No, I don't associate with Shadman. A couple of tweets made when I was 17 to 18 years of age and not even a content creator on YouTube at the time doesn't mean I was actively supporting a pedophile. Be so serious. I didn't even know the full extent of what the man was doing on his site until I was 19.
It is worth noting, by the way, because of the overwhelming popularity and unanimous recognizability of Shadman, it's very possible a good few YouTubers that associated with him in the context of, like, having a cultural osmosis idea of who he is, and, like, if anything, they were victims of, like, the internet not responding properly to this kind of guy. Like, people like this person were like 16, 17, 18 at the time and saw Shadman tweets and saw big YouTubers liking, retweeting, and replying and thought, oh, okay, nothing of it, right? I don't think that's evil, but there are some pretty big people who, you know, were friends with him personally.
220, and since then I'd already written him off and have actively talked shit for years if people bring him up to me.
Similarly to Chris Raygun, who just had a few miscellaneous tweets replying to him. I feel like if all you did was just reply to a few of his tweets and not really give much promotion, or you weren't even big at the time where you could give promotion, who gives a fuck? If you're...
It's also worth noting that Shadman drew inappropriate material of every new thing that came out, and it always reeked of pedophilia, even if it wasn't overtly child porn. Like, even that image that we just saw, like, this image is pedophilic, like, and incestuous, for that matter. Like, you know what this image is, right? This is like a gender-swapped Kratos and Atreus, who is Kratos' son, and, like, Atreus is like, oh my god, she's so pretty. This is the most tame material that you would see from Shadman. And what he always did was he made art of every new popular thing. So if there was a new popular game, a new popular movie, hell, a new popular YouTuber, he drew smut of them. If he could make it child porn or referencing child porn, he did. And
I feel like if all you did was just reply to a few of his tweets and
not
really give much promotion, or you weren't...
He rode the algorithm really well. That's also partially how he got, like, destroyed, right? He drew art of popular YouTubers and characters from the new movie, Logan, the new Wolverine. Well, not anymore the new Wolverine movie. Now it's the old Wolverine movie. But he, like, Logan was a new movie. Keemstar was in drama with him, and Lieutenant Corbus was big on YouTube at the time, and so Shadman, doing his thing that he always did, drew porn of them, and that got so big because of the crossover of different figures and attention that everyone realized how fucked he was. But he was doing this shit, like that example there, for a long time, and that is a tame example. That is an example you can show on YouTube. Most you could not.
Even big at the time where you could give promotion, who gives a fuck? If you're criticizing someone for replying to a few tweets and not even promoting him or actively supporting or defending him, then you're a fucking idiot. Now that we got that out of the way, let me list off some of the people who I think rightfully deserve to get criticized. And it'll start from the least bad to the absolute worst. Now let's start with the second group of people. These are people who actively collaborated with Shadman or used him for content and eventually defended him. To be more specific, I'm talking about people like Too Mad, Obviously Alien, and Bionic Pig. Now, the first one being Too Mad, he's a complex individual with an insane amount of lore that I'm not talking about.
I watched up until maybe around here. I don't know if this YouTuber knows that Too Mad died. I think he does, but he doesn't mention it, so there's a chance he doesn't. But yes, Too Mad is dead, so I don't really care as much about criticizing Too Mad for this, but Too Mad's a really good example of like YouTubers that like embodied the culture of 2016. I really think that Too Mad, Too Mad didn't scream slurs all that often in his videos, at least when he was like at his peak. He was edgy, but he was like a different kind of edgy, a more like toned down, like passable today kind of edgy. But his nonsensicalness and like the lol-so random humor that he did was very reminiscent of 2016. So, and he was around then too, if I remember right. So it doesn't surprise me that he would have been friendly with Shadman.
Well, today, because goddamn. But essentially, Too Mad's involvement with Shadman was him, similarly to a lot of the people on this thread, was just him replying to a few tweets. But along with that, he also hosted a Rainbow Six Siege event with him and a bunch of creators like Donkey, Jameski, and The Living Tombstone, which is the weirdest mix of people ever. But in this event, it was a massive tournament with a bunch of YouTubers, and Shadman was in it, thus pushing him in front of an audience with potentially millions, if not tens of.
That really does go to show you, like, just one example of how platformed Shadman was by big YouTubers. Like, if there was a big event that, brought YouTubers on, like a big call, a big podcast or something, Shadman was there. He was such a recognizable figure that if, like, there was a call going on with big YouTubers and they said, yo, Shadman wants to join, everyone was like, oh yeah, bring him in, it's Shadman. Everyone knew who he was. Damn, not Donkey. Well, I don't know if Donkey associated with him so much as Donkey was on, like, at an event, a streamed event that Shadman was also a guest at. It just goes to show you that back then Donkey and Shadman were equally popular. Like if there was an event that Donkey was at, Shadman was also invited because that's how big Shadman was. That an event Donkey would agree to go to, a big YouTuber, a big fucking YouTuber Donkey is, that Shadman was there too. That was how big this guy was, how ubiquitous he was. I cannot stress enough how acceptable this behavior was because of the edgelord culture started by Gamergate. It's why it's one of the big reasons why I'm so opposed to it, even separate from like my political disagreements. It's just this free speech absolutism stuff and this desire to be opposed to moderation. It just leads to empowering people like Shadman.
Of millions of people. And this was post Daphne Keane lawsuit. I personally think it's an issue when I see people interacting with him post lawsuit. I think there is some wiggle room, but actively having him in an event with a ton of massive creators at the time.
So even after he got Giga canceled, he was brought onto this event. That means that Donkey and those other YouTubers were at least tangentially would have had to have been aware of Shadman drawing Logan's daughter and like getting sued for it. Apparently there was like legal shit for it, and they invited him to that event and they still like participated with him there. So it goes to show that even after this guy got nuked, YouTubers were still trying to look the other way and not cause a fuss about it. And they kept him around uncomfortably long. They just didn't want to rock the boat. Best case scenario. Best, like most charitable interpretation, they didn't want to rock the boat.
Is too far. Now, as for Elvis the Alien and Bionic Pig, I'm going to use Elvis the Alien as the prime example because he was the most vocal about Shadman. Now, Elvis had a series called The Internet Ruins Blank, where he would take a massive IP and show how the internet ruined it by showing fan fiction, porn, stuff like that.
By the way, this is basically what Nuxtaku does times 10. I looking back at it, I liked Elvis the Alien's videos when I was like a teenager and he was popular, but looking back at it, his stuff was almost as degenerate and cringe as Nuxtaku's stuff is today.
That really weird shit. And he would frequently show Shadman's art on this series. And while yes, a lot of times it was making fun of it, having quips like, oh, that's so gross, ew, yucky.
Sometimes I wonder who beat the shit out of Shadbase when he was a kid. He's a really good artist, can't take that from him, but the things he decides to draw,
And during the Daphne Keane lawsuit when he got his...
See, it's all good to like showcase like CP fetish art on your show as long as you make jokes about how grossed out you are the whole time. Reading Mein Kampf in public and shaking my head the whole time so everyone knows I disapprove.
His website shut down. Both Elvis and Bionic Pig both tweeted out about it, and they both made videos about it, defending Shadman, saying it was a free speech violation, which I talked about earlier. Not only did Elvis publicly promote Shadman, he also defended him, and in my mind, if I was watching him, seeing him make fun of him, but also constantly promote him, and then say, I don't personally agree with it, but it's not that bad. I think it should be on the internet. It gives off a terrible impression.
That was the lie that everyone lived by back then. No matter how awful something was, you were supposed to say, I may not personally agree with it, but I would die for their right to say or do it. Freedom of speech, bro.
I think he deserves to be condemned for it, and he was, but we'll get to his response later, I promise. Now let's talk about the final group of people. These are people who actively associated and were friends with Shadman. There's a lot of people like Psychic Pebbles, Rice Pirate Mick, and Omega Black. Now, a lot of these people have been with him for a long time. Rice Pirate Mick and Psychic Pebbles / Oni Plays have been friends with him for almost a decade. Now, Psychic Pebbles and Oni Plays have had tons of videos and tweets and Reddit posts made about them and their association with Shadman. They have a whole article about it on their YouTube Wikipedia page. I won't be focusing on it at
Oni Plays and Psychic Pebbles have worked hard to cover this shit up. But we're going to see some clips here that not only confirm they knew, but also shows them defending this stuff. And a lot of this stuff has been swept under the rug. I wouldn't be surprised if I get striked down by one of them for showing this, or if this YouTuber does too. Because this is the kind of stuff they definitely do not want bubbling up to the surface, especially when one of them now has a TV show that they, like I guess founded. I don't know if they are the writer or runner of it, but I know that they made the show. Their credit is the like Psychic Pebbles is credited as the creator and seems to be behind the art style for sure.
As much just because there's so much media attention about it, and I like to keep things fresh. But to summarize to the best of my abilities, Oni Plays and Psychic Pebbles were friends with Shadman. He lived with them for a bit, and during the peak of him getting in trouble due to the drawings he made about Daphne Keene and Keemstar's daughter, they defended him as hard as they could. In 2015, they did a podcast episode with Shadman on their podcast Sleepycast. God, I've said cast too many times. And in this, they're talking about how Shadman got kicked out of his university and eventually his country for the drawings they made, and how insane it is that happened, and how crazy everyone is except for him, because, you know.
Them was criminal psychology, but one of them was in the Justice Department.
Oh my fucking God.
They broke the bomb and said, we found some stuff on your website, which is highly illegal, and we cannot allow you back on the campus.
Oh, well.
Because you're a menace to society.
They said that exactly?
Yes.
You're a menace
Yes.
to society.
They made me sign a thing accepting that
you're a menace.
Yes.
Son, you're a menace.
You are officially a menace to society.
Legally, you're a menace.
By denying.
It really must suck hearing the voice. If you're a Smiling Friends fan, it's gotta suck hearing the voice of Charlie as he shoots the shit with Shadman about how it's so insane that a university and the Justice Department of his country found the child porn on his website illegal, and he got kicked out of his school and his country for it. So, Psychic Pebbles and Oni Plays, who are both here present and they are talking here, and their fans, heavily revised history on this. On their association with Shadman. If you ask, even the Oni Plays / Psychic Pebbles fans that I know, IRL, defend them by saying, oh, their only association with Shadman was to make fun of him. They just kept him around as a lolcow. This clip alone is all I need to see to know that's not true. It's very clear that a lot has been buried. A lot.
They made me sign a thing accepting that
you're a menace.
Yes.
Son,
you are officially a menace to society.
Legally, you're a menace.
By denying my rights to express myself in my own free time, completely independent,
disconnected from what
I do in school.
It's also how it's been great to have him as a roommate.
Canada, I kind of got to talk with Corey again, and sooner or later, Corey said, why don't you just move to America? It was after 1.5 years living there, and I was like, that is a great idea.
And it kind of went silent after that. Psychic Pebbles got his own show on Adult Swim, and I'm assuming being thrust into the limelight, want his association to be known, so if you look up Shadman on either one of their Twitter accounts, you find nothing. Now the next person.
Yep. Do you want to know why? You want to know how? That's how I knew. That's how I knew shit was being buried. Because I remember the massive Twitter arguments between Destiny and Psychic Pebbles over Shadman and other things, and now nothing comes up. And granted, Twitter sucks now, and searching things has gotten a lot worse on Google and Twitter, so that's a factor. But the fact that he and I could not find anything goes to show that Psychic Pebbles has gone back and deleted as much of his interactions and references to Shadman as possible, which does not sound very innocent to me. It sounds like he doesn't want it to be rocking the boat, the fact that he was buddies with this guy.
Person is Rice Pirate Mick. You probably don't know that name at all, but if you're a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you've definitely heard of him, or you've seen any video about the Daphne and Ellis Mark situation, like my video, which you can check out. Wow. Now, Mick, as I'll call him for the sake of this, so I don't have to keep on saying his dumbass name all the time, have been friends since or before 2013 to now, essentially. It goes as far as them hanging out in person, just being good friends, just being good guys. He was even on that Sleepycast episode with Shadman. And similarly to Psychic.
Is this guy a voice actor or a creator around JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? What the fuck? Is this someone associated with or the creator of the show being buddies with Shadman? Dude, that's gotta be... If that's the case, that sucks if there's any JoJo's fans in chat. Oof.
Pebbles and Oni plays. It's a terrible look, especially when you are such, not only social media-wise, public figure and popular
A voice actor from JoJo's, okay.
personality, where you can push someone like Shadman into an audience of tens of millions of people, but also you are popular in a mainstream way. Psychic Pebbles, obviously the creator of Smiling Friends, and Mick actually being a real voice actor, working on actual serious roles. It is absolutely disgusting that they would have any association with Shadman and still continuously be friends with him. The third and last person in this group is Omega Black. Now, Omega Black is actually slightly different than the other two. If you're not aware, Omega Black is a very talented Twitter artist, working with a bunch of content creators and being generally very popular on Twitter. Now, Omega Black is someone who has interacted with Shadman online and in person multiple times, and even cites him as one of his major influences in his art, which is, I know I keep saying this, that I usually hate the claim that someone's a bad person based on who they follow on social media or a few replies to their tweets, but there's a big difference between citing yourself with a certain person and claiming them as someone that you support and allowing your community and audience to be exposed to them, thus giving them more popularity versus just clicking a follow button. You can see in the responses from a lot of people online currently to this day, from either online communities in general or Oni Plays and Psychic Pebbles' own communities, that people don't care who Shadman is. They enjoy his personality, which sets a terrible precedent, because if that is something that continues to be bred and a thought that becomes normalized, it allows Shadman and his art and what he does, regardless if it's him or someone else in the future, to be normalized in online or real society. There's absolutely nothing good that can come from having someone like Shadman be normalized in any form or fashion. But now that we've seen the types of people who personally should be criticized for their association with Shadman, let's talk about some of the responses from being called out for said association. Okay. The one who has responded the most and has been the most vocal, besides some people silently deleting tweets, has been our good friend Elvis the Alien. Now, in Elvis's response, he basically says everything that I said, except worse. He talks in a very condescending tone towards the Twitter mob, saying that it's a breeding ground of hate, which, to be fair, it kind of is. But the
mind you, everybody who has tried to defend their association with Shadman goes back to their old 2016 talking points of, the Twitter woke people, the SJWs are after me, they're trying to cancel me, I was just in favor of free speech. They immediately try to pander to the right wing when they defend themselves. I find that fun.
My response is extremely condescending and making people who are upset with him, just upset that he would defend Shadman at all, sound stupid.
I made a shitty tweet 7 years ago, basically defending his website being taken down. I defended his right to draw gross shit despite my personal feelings about it. I obviously don't feel this.
He did not defend the site being taken down. He defended the site and criticized and called out and said he didn't agree with it being taken down. That was probably a misspeak on his part, but a misspeak that would be convenient if people went into the video not knowing the context and thought, oh, he defended Shadman's site getting taken down? I have no problem with that, and then moved on with their day. Bit of a convenient misspeak.
Same way today. I haven't felt that way in many years. I think if you draw stuff like that, you should be locked up. Back then, I was a dumbass who thought freedom of speech and expression was precious and should be up.
Dude, he's still going down. He's still criticizing the same logic he's using to attack the people criticizing him validly for this. Christ.
Held despite mine or anyone else's feelings about someone's artwork. I don't believe that today. I have to accept that there are some idiots out there
that is a good choice in hummingbird feeder, though. That is the exact same hummingbird feeders that I use. They're really good. They have like a ring all the way around them, as you can see, which give a lot of perch room for the hummingbirds. And they're just pretty good in general. The bee guards don't have any yellow on them, though. It's not super necessary, but the hummingbirds get way more quickly attracted to red and yellow combined. That's why the fastest attracting hummingbird feeders tend to have yellow as like the bee guard color and then red as the main color. And these are all red, but it still works.
Will always have the wrong idea about me. I'm all out of it is what it is, you know, I'm just done.
Elvis, I mean this in the nicest way possible. You seem genuinely stupid. You actively made the choice to do and say all these things. You never went back on it publicly, and when you tried, you put it in areas where it was difficult for your audience to find, and then you get mad at people for still assuming that you are associated with Shadman. And also in this response, there was a part where he was talking about how insane Keemstar was and how he's actually the weirdo because him and his legal girlfriend are a massive age gap compared to him and his wife. Who gives a fuck? That clip has since been...
Yeah, like, Keemstar's a piece of shit, and there's plenty of reasons to attack him, but calling Keemstar a pedo has always been a meme, like, for people who've long since decided he's done so much awful shit that he doesn't deserve any, like, basic human respect anymore, which he doesn't. So, like, it's funny, but, like, Keemstar is nowhere near as bad as Shadman. In fact, Keemstar was one of the first people, even before... You know, Shadman drew Keemstar's daughter because Keemstar was one of the only people with a platform calling out how weird it was that all these big YouTubers were platforming and supporting Shadman. What did Keem do? Are you asking that? I just explained what Keem did. Keem was one of the only people calling out Shadman, and that is why Shadman drew Keem's daughter in like a CP thing. Like that's why. There were so few people, and people are by then already hated Keem enough that like they were willing to side with Shad just to side against Keem. And that's a situation where it's like, man, I hate Keemstar, but like if your hatred of Keemstar makes you automatically jump to the defense of Shadman, then maybe it's important not to immediately jump to hating the guy you already hate in a situation like this, because that did happen.
Been removed from this response.
Why did people hate him? Dude, there are video essays that are 4.5 hours long that break down why people hate Keemstar, okay? Dude, this guy has a history that goes back to the 2000s on YouTube, okay? He has done a lot of bad stuff. One of the most iconic things was he falsely accused a nice old man named Glory and Gold RS, an old man RuneScape YouTuber, of being a pedophile because he or his team had found a sex offender registry with like a picture of a guy that looked like him. He also died recently, so rest in peace. But they found a sex offender registry with a picture of a guy that looked like him. So Keemstar reported that RS Glory and Gold had lied about his name and identity and was actually this random guy in a different state who was on a sex offender registry, which of course led to RS Glory and Gold, this nice old man, to just get absolutely dogpiled online. And Keemstar had to revoke it when it was proven false and everything. He was forced, RS Glory and Gold was forced to take out his ID and show it to the camera on stream to prove that he is who he said he is and not this pedophile guy, which, you know, only did so much to keep people off of him, right? Like, I can say from experience that, like, even when I've been in dramas where I get fully, like, undeniably proven to be innocent or in the right, it doesn't matter because the evidence of that can only reach so many people if the narrative has already gotten out, right? And so sometimes it takes weeks of people like laughing at and dunking on people for still believing, like, say the DJ Mule video, for example, had a good amount of support when it first came out, and even a week after every YouTuber there was like ripping that dude apart, there were still people repeating those talking points because they didn't know. You know, they didn't know about like how absolutely decimated the video was. Evidentially, they just like they ran with it, and so I can definitely see that. That is a real problem where like you can't like even if he showed his ID, people would still go after him, and so it just wasn't enough. Keemstar even put out a retraction to try and stop people from going after him. And that helped, but even then it continued, and it eventually fizzled out. But for years, RS Glory and Gold got harassed because of these false claims, and that is just one of the reasons people hated Keemstar.
And there's a comment that says, it was wrong of me to deflect and point the blame at Keemstar, but he was more than justified in his actions. So that portion of the video has been removed. In this video, I should have clarified that when I said I could have guessed he was a pedo, the subtext here, I don't think about it all the time when I probably should have. I feel like what a lot of creators, especially you, don't understand is that you might change and be a completely different person behind the camera, but what people see is what people know. And so even if you've had this massive and beautiful character arc where you realize, wait, the guy drawing porn of real life children is bad, if you don't make it clear and you don't make a tweet or a video or response or anything, or even a comment under all those videos that had his art in it, or change the multiple thumbnails with his art in it, or cut out the clips of him in your videos, or any of that, then people won't know that you don't associate with him. If the only time you act and show that you do not associate or strongly dislike this person when you're getting called out, what about that seems genuine at all? Now, beyond Elvis, Senor Pello also responded. If you don't know who he is, he's a YouTube animator and overall funny guy who got called out for his association with Shadman through a bunch of tweets. Also, he did multiple art pieces and animations containing Shadman and his character. And Pello's response is really long, it's like 20 minutes. So let me just talk about the main points. So essentially what Pello said is very similar to Elvis. I didn't know him. We weren't friends. You know, he was popular. I was an edgelord. So of course I had to.
A lot of these YouTubers have all just fallen to, I was just an edgelord. I didn't really know him. He was an edgy guy. And so, you know, we're like, they will never admit to any more association than the public already knows. And then we've had multiple cases of buried content bubbling back up to the surface, and it turning out these YouTubers are misrepresenting their association with Shadman back in the day, such as Psychic Pebbles and Oni Plays.
Associated with him, stuff like that. I do have to give props to Senor Pello because he did genuinely apologize. He felt bad, and that a lot of his stuff was sarcasm and memes and pure edge and, you know, big chungus, but he did feel bad. Pello also said he didn't really know what was on Shad's website.
No, back in the day, I never supported that shit. I was following for edgy because I was edgy and cringe back in the day. I regret it. Of course, I fucking regret it. I regret that I didn't found out early. As much of a surprise is, yeah, I didn't go to his fucking site. If I went to his site, I would have realized and say, fuck no.
And, you know, to be fair, I really do believe him. Until you look at what people were mad at Pello about. Having tweets where people call him out for associating with Shadman in 2017 and him saying, remember, pedophiles are people that love children. People that draw children are artists. Besides, Shad's site is for 18 plus, not for 0 to 14.
They all lie. All these YouTubers are lying to you. They desperately want you to believe they weren't buddies with this lolicon artist in 2016. And it's all because, like, they created a culture of normalization of that shit back then and championed that stuff even. Because it was all a contest of out edgelording each other, and this is what it led to. Now, years later, that stuff doesn't fly anymore, and they all have to answer for it. Damn, I really liked Pello. I told you that everyone in this chat was going to have their perception of a YouTuber they like changed forever today. There is not a single YouTuber there's not a single one of you in chat that doesn't watch one of the YouTubers who was friends with Shadman back in the day. Unless they started in like 2019, 2020, then they were buddied up with Shadman. Or if they were like a nobody back then. So far, none of my favorite YouTubers are in here. Okay, well, that's good. But for the most part, a lot of you guys are fans of at least one of these creators.
Now, he claims that this tweet was a joke and a big haha.
It was like, pedophiles like children, but artists like art or something like that. And then besides, Shadman does this. Again, I don't remember. But it was a pretty bad tweet. Of course, it was sarcasm. Of course, it was like edgy commentary shit. Back in the day.
The worst bit of sarcasm I've ever seen. Yeah, there's nothing more sarcastic than actively knowing the rules of a website you supposedly don't know about. Also, giving advice how to monetize Shad's website, a website that he doesn't know about. Now, is any of this actual proof that Senor Pello knew about all the drawings that Shadman had created?
He didn't know about the site, but he also defended its content and knew how old you have to be to go to the site, and also gave moderation advice in the site. Ooh, because he's lying about his knowledge of Shadman because he knows he can't defend it.
It is, especially with minors.
No,
but it is weird to have multiple cases where you are actively citing things with the website or giving advice towards a website that you allegedly do not know anything about. It sucks because I actually do genuinely like Senor Pello, and I was being so biased while researching. Pretty much everything I found, to me personally, has made me believe that he knew what was going on. So,
oh yeah,
appreciate the apology, big guy. Now that we got the entire plethora of things I wanted to talk about out of the way, let's go to my final thoughts. What I truly think about the people on this list and creators who have been associated with or interacted with Shadman. Now, while a lot of people have said that Shadman is kind of the Epstein of the YouTube community, I don't believe that. Well, yes, he did have a lot of association with a lot of creators. I don't think in the grand scheme it really means much. I think guilt by association really only goes so far.
I kind of disagree with this premise. Not that it's like, oh, we need to cancel every one of these creators. That's not really the means much that I think it is. I think it's more that this phenomenon that we can look at where all these big YouTubers did something publicly in 2016 to 2018 that now they have to sweep under the rug. And it's like the people who are around back then have forgotten or chosen to forget or just choose to not care. While anybody who wasn't around back then, there's this like desperate dash to make sure that everyone who like could find out about what was going on back then doesn't. Like from commentary YouTubers like hiding their old like edgelord content to this association with Shadman that like every YouTuber back then had. And these are just a few examples this video went over. There are countless. The list that I read at the start most of that list was not even covered in this video. I just feel that this video does a really good job of showing you at least a fraction of how bad this problem was. The fact that Gamergate created a landscape in which this type of material and this type of guy was acceptable, and not just acceptable, but championed. He was touted as a champion of internet culture back then. So really, that was the point that I wanted to make before the debate. We're about to get to it now, though a little late. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, I feel I'm happy having gotten a lot of that off my chest, finally complaining about this awful hypocrisy in like YouTube culture around this like, oh, it's the end if you ever associate with Shadman, but only if you're Ava Tyson, apparently. It's really weird. Like, are we gonna, like, even the fact that Mr. Beast has only gotten a fraction of the hate Ava has when they lived together and bought the lolly art together. And yet all the blame, it feels, has gone to Ava Tyson because she's trans. Not saying there shouldn't be any blame. It's just, it reinforces my premise that the internet is willing to enforce social mob justice, whatever you want to call it, on people who deserve it, only if they meet the proper requirements to be the right target. And in 2016, Shadman wasn't the right target. Despite being publicly a pedophile, he wasn't the right target to cancel. Nowadays, he is. Pedophilia is far more of something that's just an instant, it's over for you now online. I don't know why it wasn't back then, but it is now. Thank God. Anyway, apparently Walls is cooking with this debate, so I'm excited to get to it. So I'm going to wrap up this segment now. I really enjoyed that video. I highly recommend you go check him out. Very good videos, very good channel. I'm excited to see the other content he's done on the weirdos on YouTube that get away with encouraging CP shit, because he seems to have done another video on another weirdo lolicon YouTuber that was suggested to me, so I'll check that out too, and I will hopefully enjoy it as much as I enjoyed that video. So yeah, if you liked my video or that one, be sure to leave a like on both. It really helps a lot, no matter when, where, or what you're watching from me. Every thumbs up twists YouTube's arm and forces it into the recommended of more people, so thank you to everybody who hits that little thumbs up and turns it blue, or whatever color it is on your like layout of YouTube, because you might be in like dark mode and it turns white in dark mode. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below, subscribe, and ring the bell icon to get notified when I go live or upload a new video. Follow my social medias linked down below to see more from me on other platforms, and join my fan Discord if you haven't already to be a part of the free main hub of my community. I will also be hosting, due to very low turnout on them, I'm going to be attempting one last event in the Discord in the form of a watch party this Friday, and if the turnout continues to be really low, then it will be the last event. So while I used to advertise watch parties, game events, and call-in streams in my Discord, those will happen no longer, most likely after Friday. Depends though, but doesn't seem like there's gonna be a lot of turnout, so I'm guessing it's not gonna happen anymore after Friday. So no events, but come to the Discord to get notified when I go live or upload, and talk to other fans of the community. It's really just the hub of the fan base. And of course, consider perhaps even supporting me financially, helping to keep a roof above my head by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, or Patreon, or buying merch at the Streamlabs link down below. But regardless of how you support me, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.